Alright my friends, so today we're gonna learn how to frontside flip. Now, some little things to consider. I have this like, I don't even know what you call this. This is to fix the bolt, and so my setup isn't good right now, but we're gonna make it work with what we have. And I'm gonna start off by talking about how you might need to take a step back so that you can actually land a frontside flip. Most times what taking a step back means is just going back to a front 180 and getting real confident doing a frontside 180. Why? Because everyone has the inclination to, when they go for the frontside flip, just go over the back foot, which doesn't give them the how do I say this? It doesn't allow them the ability for a consistent and effective pop. So we want to get super comfortable being over the lead foot as we go for the jump, for the wind up. So now, oh my god, okay, so now if you don't feel comfortable with that front 180, you might even have to start going like frontside kick turns. Look, let's go to a 45, or just do frontside 180s more often. Make sure they're consistent, right? You can get away with landing a frontside flip, but it's gonna feel like you're guessing, like you're just trying to try things out and learn in real time. Instead of actually preparing yourself for success, you're just preparing yourself for frustration. Yes, there isn't such much, there's no such thing as failure as far as like progression goes, because even if you don't land the trick, you can always learn from that mistake, learn from that lesson. So now, like I said, you can kick turn. Just front side, right?
Kick turn, front side.
So to accomplish that kick turn, many of us think we need to be applying so much weight on the back so that we can lift the front, but you don't need to do that. Similarly to a frontside flip, in order to get your board to spin 180, you don't need to put so much intention on staying over this back to get the pop. It's staying in the front so that when you jump, you're over that lead foot and you're able to land effectively over what then becomes the lead foot, which is my right side. A lot of us try frontside flip, but instead of going to the lead foot, because they're so comfortable being on the back, they land on the back or the board flings forward. And so, or what can also happen is you try the frontside flip and the board stays behind you, you go forward. That's because you're not on the lead foot, leaning too far forward, or leaning on the back foot. So you want to make sure you're confident being on the lead foot so that when you land, you're on the lead foot as well. Now, I'm gonna do a frontside flip off this little mani pad. Just so you can see, I want you to be right next to me and see how I'm staying over that lead foot. I'm opened up to the direction I'm going, and then also when I land, I'm over that lead foot and I'm opened up towards the direction I'm going, which is the palm trees or the 3 block, you can say. Okay, now I have done many frontside flips in the 18 years I've been skating off of bigger sets with super horrible technique, but they only became very consistent and comfortable when I understood where my posture needs to be on the board. A lot of times we have this tendency as skaters to focus so much on foot placement, speed, power, just very limited applications where we're not using our whole body and we're just thinking, we're putting too much emphasis on one part. For example, if you have trouble spinning the board 180, a lot of us tend to push the back foot so much, use a pyramid, or just do frontside flips that look kind of like, they're not fully rotating. And for those reasons, you might need to get comfortable being over that lead foot, frontside kick turns, frontside 180s. And if you need to take even more steps back, please allow yourself to do that, because you're going to be setting up or refining your foundation to to what you want to do, which is a frontside flip. So don't let yourself step back, discourage you from learning that frontside flip eventually. Just see it as a part of the path, a part of the process, right? Yes, we have goals, but we can't ignore what needs to be done in the way to our goal. So for the sake of, you know, for the sake of just wanting something so bad, you have to be open to the learning that comes within. So now, as far as foot positioning goes, I tend to have my foot a bit more inside, right, when I do the frontside flip, because I find when it's here, I don't feel so stable, and then I have to pop from a bit more on the toe side. So what I generally do is put this foot closer to the toe side, this foot closer to the back heel side, and if I can, on the center, and go frontside flip from there. Okay, so let me show you again. You can stay on that side. My foot's closer to the toe side. My back foot is on the center. I kind of bring it lower, like in the middle of the board, and then I go. Right? So your foot positioning, you have to play around with that. But at the very end of the day, you want to make sure you can get a low angle. You want to make sure your board isn't like this when you're going for the frontside flip. I see so much of this happen where you're like pinching the wheel to your board. You want to make sure you're stabilizing yourself. So if that means having your front foot on the heel side and your back foot on the toe in order to get that, right? That's up to you. Vice versa. If you need your front foot on the toe, your back foot on the heel, that's your, how do I say this? Like your preference. You got to figure out what works for your posture, and just be very wary that you're still stabilizing over that lead foot and you're feeling confident as you land these tricks over and over again. Now, I like to choose to pop from the center, but sometimes I do gravitate towards this side. So that's something I need to work on. And so the reason I mentioned that, if you find yourself doing a frontside flip, it's consistent, but it just feels still unsafe, or you feel insecure and like you can't progress it onto anything else, you might want to play around with switching up your foot, your feet, your posture, so that you prioritize stability, right? Because I can do a lot of tricks, right, with very awkward postures, but once I want to take them downstairs or onto obstacles or out of manuals, they become so much more difficult. So the same thing applies when you're learning this frontside flip. If you're learning the frontside flip and you can do it by like being on the ground too much, and then you finally go for it and you get 1 or even 8 out of 10, you want to make sure you're feeling fluid. You're not forcing the frontside flip, you're really allowing it to happen as you're experiencing that frontside flip instead of just completing it. You know what I mean? Huh? No, I'm saying, like, you know, some of us land a trick and we're like, whoa, how did we land that? Yeah. You don't want to be feeling like that all the time. And I see a lot of skaters who are skating as if they've landed the trick the first time. Their body doesn't seem to recognize that movement. No, I know that. Whereas
I'm saying you want proper engagement.
Well, that's not what I was talking about though. What I'm talking about is what I was just saying. When you land your trick, right? The first one can be sloppy, right? But then generally, as you continue to do the tricks, they start to smoothen out. But the thing is, I've seen many skaters who, because they're not consistent, or they just don't care to really refine their ability of skating, they don't care, and every time they land a trick, whether it's consistent or not, or cool or not, they seem to they land it as if it's their first time landing that trick. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for example, if I were to do a switch flip like that, it'd be, and like imagine me landing that. I could land it very, right? I can land that all the time. Right here. Or there was a point in time where I would get no pop, I would have no control, and I'd be landing it like that. If you're finding yourself like that, it's cool that you landed, but you want to make sure you're making those adjustments so that eventually it just improves little by little. They don't have to be perfect, but there has to be improvement, so that whether or not you take it down an obstacle, a stair set, onto a grind, or just into a different variation, you have that ability. Whether you want to, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that's what I'm getting at. So we covered prioritizing, stabilizing over that lead foot, or sorry, stabilizing. And the way you do that is making sure you're over that lead foot, making sure that your foot positioning is allowing your board to stay leveled, and also making sure you're open to refining your trick as you land them a bit more consistently. I've said before, you can land tricks, but it doesn't mean you've learned them. And so that's kind of me just iterating on that idea. You can land a trick, you can land a frontside flip, but if you're always fighting for the trick, you know, you're not going to be able to appreciate it in other environments, other skate parks, other obstacles, and you're going to be very limited. We want to be able to express ourselves in an abundant manner, and that's why I'm emphasizing stability and efficiency. Or efficiency, and that's why I bring up stability as like the important part, right? And then after we talk about foot placement. But yeah, having said that, Brian, do you have? I was gonna say, Carlos, do you have any questions? Brian, do you have?
I guess
any questions?
You didn't really bring up engagement, which I feel like is something you always bring up to make sure to be aware of. Okay, so with engagement, right? I kind of touched on it when I said I like to put my front foot in the center, but many people, which is why I didn't go too deep into it, are stable here, right? On a wider stance. It can be done many different ways, but what's important is that you feel stable. Now, on top of being centered over that lead foot, in order to make sure you're engaged and you're able to anchor yourself over that lead foot, you want to get close to your board by engaging your whole body right here, okay? Now, it doesn't always mean you have to stay doing the trick for that in that manner. You can eventually build those muscles and kind of be a little more stand up, you know, and do them in that way where you're not, you know, exaggerating the bend down. Oh my God. This guy, I'm trying to like follow you and it's weird. Stay there. Okay. You don't always have to do this where you go low. You got too close to me.
But you can see the flick, right? You can see the board. You can see the half of my body.
No, you're too close.
Okay. Okay. So that wasn't a good one, but me landing low is a form of what he mentioned, which is engaging. Now, you can land the frontside flip being a bit taller, right? Away from the board. But when you're first learning something, you want to make sure you're using all your tools, your whole body, in other words. So that's what I mean by engagement. As you strengthen that ability, you're able to not be so intentional, and you can kind of be a bit more flowy. Not to say this isn't flowy. Oh my God. I'm fatiguing already. Not to say that isn't flowy, but I know a lot of skaters who have different styles. You know, a skater like Amu. This is too much? Like I'm on the face?
Yeah.
Why is it too much?
Just too close to me.
Why? Like, what do you see? I'm just curious.
Your whole head.
Then? How's that too close?
I mean, it does hurt.
Yeah. Okay. It's because I also want to make sure you can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Okay. I know a lot of us are inspired by skaters like Aimu and you know, just skaters who seem to not really get low for their tricks. But the truth is, everyone has different abilities, different mechanics, and you don't want to be basing the way you need to accomplish a trick off of someone else's version of accomplishing that trick, landing that trick. You want to learn it using all your tools, your whole body, engaging your whole body, and then you slowly start to refine it the way you slowly start to refine it the way you want to, right? That's where style comes in. That's where your preferences start to influence and create your style. But at first, you want to prioritize being stable, consistent, efficient, right? So
We're gonna do one more off the launch. Oh, anything else aside from engagement? Also, this is so nuanced that the way I would go about engaging for myself is a whole different conversation than I would tell you or even Brian to engage, because naturally I feel recruitment for my glutes and my hamstrings when I go low for a frontside flip. I feel my calves, I feel my tibialis, whereas someone else who maybe isn't, you know, as active or doesn't skate as much, it's gonna be a whole different conversation. It's gonna take some warming up or a different approach. So please ask your questions. I'm going to elaborate on this subject, maybe not with frontside flips, but on other videos. And so if you're interested in, you know, taking a deeper dive, make sure to subscribe and also tune into the lives, because I talk about it very consistently on there as well. Today, actually, I'm making this video because someone was on the live in the morning while I was at South Pass, and so here we are doing the frontside flip. And so my point is, it's a different approach, so feel free to ask questions. Please ask questions. It helps you and everyone else who watches this channel, so thank you. But yeah, anything else?
I was gonna say, why do you think skaters like, I think you said Aimu, can get away with not having to?
It's not that it's not that they get away with it, but it's just their mechanics only require them to get this low, right? They can contract those muscles, hamstrings, quads, or have an over contraction of certain muscles that allow them to do that.
How do you think they've got into that?
Huh?
How do you think they've got into that?
Well, I mean, okay, everyone has different upbringings, right? So something as simple as like a kid who grew up hiking every day naturally is gonna have so much more tendon strength or just ability in their feet. They're gonna have so much more strength, so their bounce and everything naturally can be more efficient, right? Whereas someone else who grows up just like sitting on the couch watching TV might not have the same ability in their you know, on their ankles or the feet or everything that it takes to get that snap. So it's not really about posture, because if you try to imitate his way of doing the frontside flip, you are going to be you're going to be going backwards, right? You're pretty much, it might be fun, you know, it might be a form of reverse engineering stuff and trying to figure it out, but once you begin to apply it to yourself, it just becomes so confusing and frustrating, because you're like, damn, he does it like this, but how come I can't figure it out? And it's because we are all starting from a different baseline.
Don't forget, you're an individual.
Yeah, you're an individual, you're unique. Yes, you might find someone else who has a very similar style, but it also, you know, it doesn't mean you understand their context or how they got to that point. So you need to focus on where you're starting from, and as you get influence or as you get tips, you know, connect the dots, or like get that puzzle and make sure you're creating your own. Slowly, yeah, just, I mean, and slowly is also a different, it depends on the skater, because slowly for me can mean I connect the puzzle in a week because I skate every day for 10 hours. Whereas slowly for someone else might mean they do it in a year because you skate once a week.
I guess do it with patience.
So yes, you got to make sure you're patient with yourself, because you are the only one. You have your own experience, right? You can't see that Aimu's doing a clean tail slide frontside flip off a ledge. Be like, oh, I need to do that. So like let me just go for it. He just goes for it. No
comparison.
Yeah, you can't compare yourself. You're your own skater, so approach it with that manner. Put yourself first in that way.
That's the joy.
I'm trying to get in the shade, and then you're like in the sun stuff.
Well, I need to be on.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to get in the shade. Okay. So, any other questions? Because honestly, I think I covered it all.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
I mean, covered. Like I said, ask questions. It's gonna improve me, the channel, and hopefully your understanding of what I'm talking about, the frontside flip. So, having said that, if you're interested in lessons, coaching, or just want more input on this, like I said, ask questions. You can find me on Instagram, profe.carlos, profe.carlos, and you know, you might need to send me a message, and then it's gonna allow you, after I respond, to send them in a video. So look out for the lives, look out for their, you know, check out the Instagram, and be aware there's a membership coming soon. So looking forward to launching that, and have a great day. I'm gonna do one more frontside flip.
off the launch. So we'll see. Wait, did I do it off the launch already?
Yeah.
I did it in the beginning, right? Okay, one sec. Okay, just like I missed that one, what is important is that you feel confident in your approach, right? Many times, there's a lot of skaters who can be, and I guess this is a tangent, but there's a lot of skaters who can land a trick consistently on one obstacle, but they can't apply it in different ones. So you want to, I don't know if you want it, or that's me like forcing my values onto the skater, but what I prefer and what I try to share, you know, with everyone is giving yourself the best chances of applying the trick in a lot of different situations. That's how skateboarding has been fun for me, and how I've been able to benefit from sponsors, from a lot of fun in skateboarding, and just being a part of, just being able to enjoy different aspects of it in general. So that's why I share this aspect of progressing in skateboarding. But there are a lot of compensations you can do where it's just going to be limiting and maybe consistent for that specific obstacle. Actually, yesterday I was at the skate park doing a lesson, and pretend the pyramid, right? This is the pyramid where you pop this down, is like decline, and so you go onto the flat. I was told from my student, he was trying to shove it going at an angle so that he can get over it easily, right? Instead of going straight at the over the line and doing a full shove it going directly towards the other side of the obstacle where he's going. And what he told me, he's like, oh, someone told me I could do it like that. I'm like, yeah, you can do it like that, just like you can do the frontside flip many other ways. But is this gonna be beneficial for you once you want to eventually take it to crossing the whole pyramid instead of just going over it? You know what I mean? So you want to think about, does this approach with the frontside flip that I'm doing here work if I add speed? Does it work if I want to add pop? Or, you know, what gives me the best chances to be flexible with my approach instead of being limited and just you know, constricted with you know, with limited approaches. So here we go. Peace out, guys.